And I'm going to go over what materials we're going to need, quite a few of them, but the result is worth it. So you're going to need an ultrafine Sharpie. If you don't have an ultrafine, that's the one with the tip that's a little smaller, that's okay. A normal Sharpie will do the job as well. I'm going to ask for a piece of watercolor paper, 6x9, just a half sheet, and then a cup of water and Crayola crayons. The reason that we're using crayons is because we're going to create some texture in the clouds and in our plateaus, as you can see right here, just like Maynard Dixon did. So Maynard Dixon is a cowboy, but he's also an artist, and he is one of my favorite landscapists. He is a impressionist landscapist, so he has a very unique style, and he did grow up during the Western Front, like during cowboy times. So he was born in 1875. He did pass away in 1946, and he was obsessed with Western culture. He loved horses, Native Americans, and that is what he painted often. And we're going to learn a little bit about him right now. So that is a portrait of Maynard Dixon, and that is a photograph of him. He is definitely a cowboy. Look at that hat. So Maynard Dixon's style incorporates elements of Impressionism, particularly in his early artworks. He utilizes bold colors, simple lines, and focuses on the overall impression of overall impression of the scene, such as like the mood and the lighting of the American West. So he would often just paint Western landscapes. He was native to California, and he lived in Arizona and New Mexico. So he painted those three states. And he often included horses, cattle, cowboys, and Native Americans. Okay, we're going to watch this short video. There's no talking in the video. We're just going to watch and observe his artwork. I want you to pay particular attention to how large his clouds are, what colors are in the clouds, what kind of mountains, what shape are the mountains, what is the subject matter, and I'm going to go ahead and play that now. Alright, so that is some of his artwork. As you can see, he has a very specific artwork he does with only doing American, like, Western subject matter. He was married to another famous artist, Dorothy Lang, and she is a photographer, and she is most famously known for taking photos during the Great Depression. As you can see that photo on the right with the mother and the two kids, that is a very famous photo. It's very iconic for the 1930s. So he was married to an artist, and he did landscapes quite often with very large bellowing clouds. That is his hallmark. That is what he is known for, his vast skies. So his horizon line is very low to the ground to exaggerate how large the western front was. So as you can see, they kind of look almost cartoony, kind of like the Simpsons clouds. But that is what his style is all about, showing how vast and beautiful the America's landscapes are. So he went to New Mexico, he would go to the Grand Canyon, Arizona, and California. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and ask you to find your Sharpie, and you're going to hold up your Sharpie in the air. And we're going to wave it like we just don't care, and we're going to find our piece of paper and write our name. We're not doing much of a warm-up. We're going to do a short warm-up, just getting used to the 3 horizon lines. So as you can see, we have 1 horizon line, 2, and 3. And we're going to practice that with our warm-up. So I'm going to go ahead and move all of my examples out of the way. We're going to grab our watercolor paper. And I want you just to touch the paper and decide which side is smooth and which side is bumpy or rough. We're going to do our warm-up and our name on the bumpy side, so the rough side. And if you can't decide which side is the bumpy side, just politely whisper to your neighbor and maybe they can help you. Very whisper. Be polite. Okay, this is my bumpy side, so I'm going to write my name and we're going to do my warm-up. We're going to do our warm-up. Alright. We are doing 3 horizon lines. How many? 3. He is known for making his horizon lines and all of his detail very low on the page. His horizon line never goes past the middle of the page. We are going to be in landscape. So let's practice our first horizon line. Everyone get your pinky out. Fancy pinky. And we're going to start our first line right here. And we're going to bring it all the way across. This is just a warm-up. 1 pinky. 1 pinky. All the way across. I'm going to zoom in. And the key to making the mountains look real is do not overthink it. Go fast, okay? So I'm going to show you what I mean. So we have our first horizon line. We're going to do our second horizon line. And my second horizon line is not going to be any higher than my first finger, 1 finger. So my pointer finger. My next mountains are not getting any taller. So let's just watch me. Use your eyes, not your hands. In 3, 2, and 1. Just watching me. I'm going to go across. I'm not thinking about it. I'm going fast. And I went all the way across. And they're not any taller than my finger. So I'm going to give you the A-OK. It's your turn. Get your Sharpie. And let's draw very fast little bumpy lines that are not getting any taller than your finger. It's your turn. We have 1 horizon line, our second horizon line, and we have to do our third horizon line, which will be the flat mountain that we saw in all of Dixon's artwork. They are called plateaus. So, your eyes are going to be watching me in 3. You're not using your pencil in 2. And you're just watching me in 1. Watching Miss B. Not using your hands, just your eyes. We're going to go up 2 fingers, up 2 fingers, across 2 fingers, and go ahead, it's your turn. This isn't going to be any taller than 3 fingers. Our plateaus should not be any taller than 3 fingers. So we're going to do a diagonal line going up, and then a diagonal line going vertical, horizontal, and then we're going to go down. And I want you to go kind of fast. I just want you to do little tiny plateaus, getting smaller and smaller. This is just a warm-up. So practice making nice little flat, sort of square-looking plateaus. This is your turn. This is our warm-up. We're going to flip it over in just a moment, and we're going to do it again, but for real. And I want you to not stress about it. I know we're using Sharpie and you can't erase, but if you overthink it, then your lines are going to be choppy. We want them very smooth. We want to go fast. Okay, well, let's go ahead and flip our paper over. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. All right. Flip our paper over. We have our name. Make sure you have your name. Flipping our paper over. This should be the smooth side. We're getting our pinky, our fancy pinky, and we're coming down to the bottom and starting that line. We are going to bring it all the way across. Make it as straight as you can. It's okay if it's a little bumpy and curvy. That will make your landscape look a little more realistic. So that is just one pinky. We're going to move up to our pointer finger. Remember, our mountains aren't going to get any higher than our pointer finger. The reason for that is because Maynard Dixon always kind of smushed all of his detail at the bottom of the page to make the sky look larger. And we're going to do the same thing. So let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and make our little mountains. Don't overthink it. Just make some wavy lines. And they shouldn't be any taller than your pointer finger. As you can see, my mountains are all quite small. All right, let's move on. We're going to go ahead, and we're not letting our plateau get any taller than our 3 fingers. We're going to have one large plateau, and then we're going to have like 3 or 4 smaller ones. So we're going to start in this corner, and we're going to do a diagonal line coming up. This diagonal line is about 2 fingers tall. We're going to come up to a vertical line, which is also about 2 fingers high. And then we're going to go across horizontally about 2 fingers and stop. We're going to make a little divot because these have a lot of erosion. So as you can see, we have a little divot that goes down, and we're going to add some erosion lines, just like the Grand Canyon. The desert and the Grand Canyon, there's a lot of water and wind that have eroded these mountains. So I'm going to go down, across, up, and down, just like that. So go ahead, make a little divot. Here is another example of what a divot will look like. One right there. Here's another one right here. And we're making that very noticeable. Alright, everyone has their divot. It might look more like a triangle, more like a square. It's up to you, but then we're going to make a little smaller part. And I want you to think a little more rounded, so a little less squared. And we're just going to go ahead and add some more plateaus, different sizes. And then we're going to taper down. So we see how I got really tiny towards the bottom. Okay, almost touching my second horizon line. There's no wrong way to do this. Remember, if you try to perfect it, it won't look as organic. We just want to go nice and fast. That will make it look more organic. Make sure you've added about 2 or 3 plateaus. None of them are as large as this one. And we're going to add some more erosion. That happens to these rocks, to these mountains, with wind and water over thousands and thousands of years. So I like to just do little short lines towards the top, different variations in size. Some are longer, some are shorter. And I'm just going all the way across, making these little, faint, small lines, these erosion lines. It's going to give our artwork a little more texture and just make it look a little more interesting. I like to start them at the top and then put a few of them towards the bottom. Alright, we do have to do the bellowing clouds. Like I said, he kind of smushes everything towards the bottom of his artwork to make his clouds look huge. And I'm going to have you watch me do a cloud first. So you're not using your pencil, you're using your eyes, and you're going to watch me in 3, 2, and 1. So I'm going to start right about here, and I'm going to make a bellowing cloud. So think of organic shapes. Don't overthink it, but we're going to go large, and it's going to go just like that. So I started at the top, I came around, and then I ended right here. It's almost as big as my fist. It's a little smaller than my fist. They're very large clouds. So it's just slightly smaller than my fist. So go ahead, it's your turn at a nice large cloud. It's kind of hiding behind our plateau. We're going to do a large, medium, and small cloud. Remember the rule of thirds, that magical rule. Everything looks better in threes. So we're going to go ahead and find your second or last plateau, and we're going to draw another cloud, and it's going to be slightly smaller, but still very large. And let it exist off the page. Don't try to smush the cloud to be fitting on the paper. Let it exist off the page. Like, use your imagination. It's continuing off that page. So draw your second cloud. We have one more cloud to go, and I'm going to put it up here, up a lot higher, and we're only going to see the bottom of that cloud. So I'm going to have you watch me in 3, 2, and 1. Your eyes are on the screen. I'm just going to go ahead and add something sort of like that. We don't see the entire cloud. It exists off the page. We're just seeing the bottom. We're just seeing the bottom. We are all finished with our Sharpie. So I'm going to put the cap on the Sharpie. I did ask for you guys to have some Crayola crayons. We're going to add blue and yellow into the clouds. So our next color we're going to need is yellow. So when everyone is done with their clouds, you're going to go ahead and grab a yellow Crayola crayon. The first thing we're going to do with the yellow is outline the clouds. We're going to add a little bit of shadow to the clouds. For example, as you can see in this one, we have a little bit of blue and yellow. We have a little bit of blue and yellow, and this is going to give dimension to our clouds, because clouds are not flat, and they're not just smooth, and they reflect light, especially during sunsets. That's why clouds turn pink during sunset. So let's go ahead. We're going to stay inside the cloud and outline. Staying inside the cloud, starting inside the cloud, and outlining it. We're going to do that to all of our clouds. It gets a little tricky with the top cloud. We're just outlining the black. We are not outlining the top of our paper, so I'm not going to put a line of yellow here. I'm letting it just outline the bottom with the Sharpie and stop. So I'm not adding a yellow line towards the top, just outlining with the Sharpie, where the Sharpie would be. We are going to add a little bit of shadow. What I mean by that is we're going to make a little bit of yellow towards the bottom of our clouds, coming up slightly on the side. So I'm coloring in lightly, light like a feather, just the bottom, not very tall, just the bottom of our cloud. We're going to add vertical lines, short lines inside our plateau, giving more texture to our rocks, to our mountains, creating that erosion. So I've added short vertical lines across my landscape. We're all done with our yellow. We're going to go ahead and find a light blue. Find your light blue. Not your dark, but your light blue. And we're going to add a little bit of blue into the clouds. I'm going to wait and let everyone finish this part, and then I'll show you what to do with the blue. Maynard Dixon saw the first car. So when he was younger, he was riding horse and buggy. And then the Model T came out, which is a car from Ford, and it was the first car, and he noticed that the Western world was changing. It was becoming more modern, and he really enjoyed the good old days, so he often painted things from his childhood, what he saw in California. He grew up in California. And he painted a lot of Hopi Indians, so Hopi Native Americans, so the native people of our country. And one of his most famous artworks is a Hopi man with a blanket, with a Native American blanket. Okay, we're going to grab our blue, and we're going to just go right above our yellow and come up a little bit. I hope you can see it. I know it's very light, but you're adding just a little bit of blue. You don't have to add a lot of blue, just a small amount, creating a sort of like silver lining in your cloud. Doing it right above your yellow. Maynard Dixon did not go to art school. That's why he has such a strong style. He was an impressionist, so he has very strong style. As soon as you look at the painting, you know it's a Maynard Dixon, often because of how large the clouds are. Sometimes when you go to art school, they make you paint the same over and over again, and you kind of lose your unique style. So that's kind of the cool thing of not being a trained artist. You have very distinct style. We're going to go ahead and grab an orange and a red. So grab an orange and a red. We're going to add a few more lines onto our plateau. So we're just kind of adding a little more texture. Think about when we did oh yeah, it was the bark of the tree for our koalas. We kind of did the same technique that we're doing right now. Make sure you see the page, okay? I want you to see the white of the paper. You're not coloring in the entire plateau. We're just making short little marks. I don't want to see this all colored in orange or all colored in yellow. We want the white of the page to show. We want the white of the page to show. Maynard Dixon, some of his most famous artwork was done in Arizona. He lived in Arizona after he moved out of California. And he did very large cactuses. He was, how he became famous first, before his landscapes, was he would do covers for magazines, often having cowboys or horses on the covers. Okay, so we should have some cool texture in our plateau. We're going to go ahead and get our paints ready. So make sure you have your paint palette. Make sure you have your water cup and maybe a paper towel just in case you get some paint somewhere on your page. We're going to start with the sky. We're going to paint wet on wet. That means you paint with water first and then you add the wet paint. Everything else is going to be the dry method, where the page stays dry and we just add the paint, which is wet. I hope that makes sense. Don't worry, I'll go over it again. And we are going to start with 10 drops of water just on the sky. We're not adding any water on the clouds or onto our plateaus. So let's just watch me first. I'm going to go and put a few drops of water, about 10 drops. You might need more, but 10 is a good place to start. So I'm just putting drops of water. It kind of looks like raindrops. Just like that. So go ahead, it is your turn. I hope you can see that I've added drops of water, about 10 drops. And once you have those drops, you're going to go ahead and paint the water, spreading it around. Make sure not to get inside the clouds. Try your best not to get water onto your plateau. You're just going ahead and spreading that water around. If you need a little more water and you're getting your brush is too dry, just dip it in the water one more time. And we have spread this all the way around. Now my sky is completely wet. The page is completely wet. And I have to make sure that my paint is wet. So I'm going to add a little bit of water into the blue. We're going in with blue. We're only adding blue to wherever we put water. And we're just going to go ahead and paint that entire sky blue. We're not doing a sunset because Maynard Dixon didn't do sunsets very often. He is known for his vast blue skies with a very large cloud. Trying our best to stay just where the sky is, not adding any paint anywhere else, trying to stay inside the line. If you get some paint where you don't want it, just grab your paper towel and dab your paper towel and your paint will come up. If you get a little paint inside your plateau, it's okay. And this is the wet on wet. This is the only part we're adding water first and then wet paint. The rest of it is going to be the dry method, where the paper stays dry. We're not going to skip ahead. We are going to paint the very first bottom horizon line next, because we have 3 horizon lines. We have 1, 2, and 3. We're going to paint the bottom one yellow. We want to make sure our brush is nice and clean before we go into the yellow, because we don't want to mix the colors in the yellow, and we want to make sure that our paper is dry. So I'm just adding a little bit of yellow, or a little bit of water to the yellow, and then your next step is going to be to color in that first horizon line. And then we're going to stop there, and I'm going to let everyone catch up. Maynard Dixon is often called the last cowboy because he wanted to live like we did in the Old West. So he is a real cowboy. He would ride horses. He had cattle. He had cows. He often painted cows and horses. Horses are not easy to draw or paint. It is a very good, very difficult animal to draw. I definitely want to try to be like him and practice doing horses. The only way you can get better at something is by practice, and he had plenty and plenty of practice. He would paint outside because he was an impressionist artist, and he would take his easel outside and paint. Often a lot of impressionists would do that, like Monet. Monet is another impressionist artist who would paint outside. Alright. So let's go ahead and add some water into our green. So this is my green. And we're going to add green right here onto our little mountain. I don't really like the look of this green. It doesn't look very organic. It doesn't look very natural. So what I like to do is paint it green first and then put blue on top. We want to make sure our brush is very clean before we dip it into the blue. So I'm going to paint this green first. I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of blue. I'm just going to add blue right on top. At this point, you might have a little bit of bleeding of color. Maybe you get a little bit of green and blue into your yellow. That's okay. Don't worry. You can always get your paper towel and blot it away. I'm just going to get my paper towel and blot it away. Right here I have a little bit of the spill, and I'm just going to get my paper towel, dab it away. And I can even come back with my yellow maybe. Right, just like that. But I wouldn't worry too much about that because I think it looks kind of cool when the colors mix. Okay, we are going to move on to our plateau. We want to clean off our brush really well. We want to go ahead and get our red. We're adding onto the dry. So our paint is wet, but our red is right here, and we're only adding red on one side, kind of like a shadow. This is my red paint. I'm just adding it to one side of my plateau, just to one side. Just like that. I'm going to clean off my brush and I'm going to add some orange. And my paint is wet and my paper is dry. My paint is wet and my paper is dry. The dry method. Wet on wet for the sky, dry method for our mountain. You have more control when the paper is dry. all the fun little crayon marks we made will show up when the paper dries a little more. So don't worry, they'll come back. And you just created a Maynard Dixon artwork. If you don't like any of the red bleeding into it, you're just going to dab it. But I like it. I think it looks kind of cool like that. And this is one of my favorite landscapes to do because it is our landscapes. We are the West. We live in the West. So it's very cool to have something that you might see here in California. All right. Maynard Dixon does have a museum. There's a museum dedicated to him, I believe in Arizona, where you can see a lot of his cactus paintings, a lot of Hopi blankets, a lot of his artwork he did for magazines. He was first famous for doing magazine covers. He's done a few murals inside libraries. He is a very active artist. He was very famous during his lifetime. You're going to notice when you see a western landscape, you're going to be like, oh, I know who did that because of those giant clouds. He always exaggerated how big the clouds were, and that's how you know it's a Maynard Dixon painting. I think it's cool he showed all the detail with the erosion. We're adding texture to our plateaus because that's what happens in nature with wind and water and rain. He also showed a lot of depth and texture in his clouds because clouds are not just smooth and blank. That's why we added yellow and blue because it reflects what's happening in the sky. Just that's why we have beautiful sunsets that change colors, because the clouds capture the color and reflect those colors.